25th at 7:30 p.m. Ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis, because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
Oklahoma City now becomes one of 4 NBA teams ever, one of 3 NBA champs ever, to win at least 84 total regular season and postseason games.
It's just the beginning, Ben, and you just look at a team with, these guys at such a young age, and, Chet's got a team option, Ismail Dieng has a team option, Jalen Williams team option, Keyshawn Wallace team option. Hey, Ben, they're all coming back.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We are seeing unbelievable temperature surges over the past couple days. So I wanted to ask you this question to let the people know, how do we account for that in our handicapping? 2 good pitchers on the mound, but you look at a place like Wrigley Field, let's just say, 20-mile-an-hour winds blowing out, 90-plus degree temperatures. Is it almost like you say to yourself, you just have to fade the environment and not worry about the pitchers, because if we're hitting fly balls, they're going yard?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
As we know, it's just we enter every year, and it's, is this the Ravens' time? Is this Lamar Jackson's turn? Can they get past the Chiefs and all of these other, stalwarts of the AFC? But it's always really about Kansas City when we're talking Baltimore.
This potentially, Adam, as I send it back to you, potentially is a game changer in that you get a very talented quarter at a discount price.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Hello and welcome to a Tuesday Live right here on the Early Line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. That includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination to consume everything all across the grid. He is Donnie right side. I am Ben Stevens, together here live for the next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern time. And bright and early on this Tuesday, you might be thinking, hey, we've crowned an NBA champion. The 2024-25 NBA campaign is in the books. It is now over and through. But the offseason off to a very hot start, where it is hot outside here in the summer. Another trade late last night around the association involving the Celtics and the Trailblazers, and it is the eve of the opening round of the 2025 NBA draft. So many storylines to break down for you here over these 3 hours as we look forward to Brooklyn tomorrow night on a Wednesday to kick off round number 1 of this summer's NBA draft. We'll talk about Tyrese Halliburton. We'll talk about where the odds stand with a very early look at next season around the association. And of course, plenty of Major League Baseball to break down. 9-game slate on a Monday DRS in MLB. A full slate Tuesday ahead as well.
Yeah, pretty exciting times here. And also the heat is on. The Northeast, man, scorching temperatures at night, during the day, dusk, dawn, it doesn't matter. Maybe that correlates to some runs as well, which we saw last night in Major League Baseball, like the big dumper going yard again, as I told you he would do that yesterday. So some good times here. And yes, the NBA offseason, spectacular. It doesn't matter if the finals are taking place, blockbuster deals. The day the finals are over, blockbuster deals. Tomorrow night, we're going to have the NBA draft, blockbuster deals. This is what we need, because, Ben, once again, we're going to continue the countdown here, right? You see the date, 6/24/2025. Next week will be July. It's football month, and away we go, people. We are almost there. We're almost there.
One final week, DRS, in this month of June, and as you have alluded to countless times, our final month without an NFL football game, albeit including preseason, until March of 2026. This year's Hall of Fame game to kick off the preseason in the National Football League in Kenton, Ohio, is July 31st. Is it our first ever NFL game played in the month of July? We'll check those history books for you. But DRS, we might be thinking the NBA season is over, but it's a tight turnaround and a tight window to the NBA draft this week, starting tomorrow night on a Wednesday. So the league still in a flurry, and that includes the Boston Celtics and the Portland Trailblazers. A trade overnight sends Drew Holiday from Beantown. Of course, he was there last year for the C's, guiding them to an NBA championship, to the Rose City in Portland. In return, the Celtics get Anthony Simons and 2 second-round picks. DRS, there had been some speculation. You were all over it. There were going to be some changes to the Celtics roster after a disappointing postseason, the catastrophic injury to Jason Tatum, and of course, some unloading of salaries. That's what this deal feels like for the C's.
Absolutely, and that's what's going to happen here. You also take a look at, owning the Boston Celtics. Like, my goodness, man, got a great price on that. I should just hold it for 10 more years. There's a reason why ownership groups sell out, because they go, boy, in the next couple of years, this bill is going to come due on many of these players. Let me get out while it's good at this time. And you take a look at Drew Holiday. He's a veteran there. That's a glue guy, one of the best defensive players. They love him in the locker room. Can't afford him. Kristaps Porzingis won't be able to afford him either. And Jason Tatum, with that monster contract, won't even be playing next year for the Celtics. What a time here in the Eastern Conference. A lot of shakeups here, but you knew it was going to happen. You're going to look for, again, Holiday expected to be moved. He was moved here. Then you're going to take a look at Porzingis, expected to be moved. A new look Celtics team for next year coming up for us.
It is a really interesting time, DRS, in Boston. Our guy, Shams Charania, now with ESPN, formerly of FanDuel TV, did further report it's the first move in what we can expect a lot of key figures maybe on that trading block for Boston. Jason Tatum, of course, suffering a ruptured Achilles in that second-round set against the New York Knicks, and devastatingly so in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. The same story for Tyrese Halliburton. Test confirming it is a torn Achilles in that right leg. Of course, the same leg he suffered the calf strain and yet played through in the championship set. He has already undergone surgery. We wish Tyrese Halliburton a very full and speedy recovery. But DRS, more than likely, he is set to miss the entirety of 2025-26.
And some of the questions come up like, ooh, would he have done that again, knowing what the outcomes were? Tyrese Halliburton said it himself, quote, I'll do it again, which means I want to ride with my guys here in the biggest moments here. And if it happens that I got injured, so be it. Look, millions of dollars in the bank. You want to ride with your guys. It's a shame he is going to miss the entire season, but there's no way, shape, or form an athlete of his caliber with his boys in a game number 7 was not going to ride with them. He did. He got the injury. He'll live with that here, and he'll be back better and stronger, hopefully, in the next year, year and a half.
If you read his social media post, you could tell how gutting it was. You work for these moments to get to Game 7, is what Hallie said. It does not make sense. We wish him the best on his road to recovery. The Pacers 15-1 to win the Eastern Conference next year, tied for the 6th best odds, of course, with the injury uncertainty around Tyrese Halliburton. But Game 7 that resulted in a championship in Oklahoma City for the first time ever also had the best ratings we have seen for an NBA Finals game in 6 years. 16.35 million people tuned in to catch Game 7, the highest rated NBA Finals game, DRS, in 6 seasons.
We like championship moments that end in that game. No matter what happens, there is no tomorrow. We love that. Why do you think the Super Bowl gets great ratings? It's not a best of 7. You're going to tune in for one night, one event over a couple hours, and a champion will be crowned. It doesn't matter if you don't like NBA basketball, college basketball, or any sports. You want to tune into the big moments. Game 7 was a big moment. That's why we tuned in. Of course, we're supposed to get good ratings on that.
Of course, the ratings conversation entered the NBA Finals. Some pretty poor results in showings early in the series. But, Donnie, as we discussed, even if the numbers are limited, if they go the distance, if they get to 6 games, the results would be there, and certainly so in game number 7. The Dallas Mavericks, who have the first overall pick with the Cooper Flag coronation tomorrow night in Brooklyn, I should say, reinforcing the rest of the roster. They signed the big man, Daniel Gafford, to a 3-year extension.
Yeah, what could have been last year for the Mavericks if they didn't get so injured down the stretch. All that Luka Doncic talk, if Kyrie Irving was there, maybe they make a run. This is a team has a good base here with a really good head coach. We'll see what happens in the future and the near future for the Mavericks.
Front court, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, both injured last season. Kyrie Irving suffering that torn ACL near the end of the year. Cooper Flag is a generational talent. If he can come in and make an impact wider way for the Mavericks, could be a playoff team next season. Might the Atlanta Braves? Well, they're still 5 games below 500 at 36-41, but they get the better of the New York Mets yesterday, handing the Amazons their 9th loss in their last 10 games. Atlanta swept the Mets last week during the midweek. They take game number 1 this week at Citi Field.
Yeah, big matchup yesterday, big pitching mismatch there. Schwellenbach was the better pitcher. We told you right here on the early line. I'm going to tell you right now without handicapping that game, Braves going to beat the Mets again tonight, so get ready in that heat at Citi Field.
Oh, a full slate Tuesday as well. Big Dumper is having his moment. Cal Raleigh, his 32nd home run of the year, the most in the bigs, including DRS. Now 4 consecutive games. He goes Yabo late in Minneapolis. His price to hit one over the wall yesterday, plus 172, still cashes for the people.
Yeah, it was up from plus 135 on Sunday, so he's got a little bit of a discount yesterday, but you love the fact that he's a switch hitter to play and dominant from both sides, so he lines up perfectly every night. On Sunday, needed the first at-bat. I think yesterday needed the last at-bat to get a home run. Boy, they've been crushing baseballs, the Mariners, lately as well. Fun to be outside of T-Mobile Stadium, it is.
11-2 the victory in Minnesota. The D-backs won 10-zip in Chicago against the Sox, but Corbin Carroll now headed to the IL, and some others a little bit banged up for Arizona as well. Plenty more on the early line up next.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
A 9-game slate on a Monday around Major League Baseball. To recap for you here, bright and early on this Tuesday morning on the early line on SportsGrid. Every time we break down an MLB game with one of the hosts of Pro Baseball Today, and of course, one of the hosts of the early line as well, we say from the brilliant baseball mind of DRS. That continues even in recaps. DRS yesterday breaking down a matchup under the arch in St. Louis. A rivalry renewed this year between the Cardinals and the Cubs, despite being NL Central divisional foes. First meeting of the season, starting last night on a Monday in the Lou. A 4-game set during the midweek. And you told us, be a little bit cautious of Ben Brown. Yeah, it wasn't a great outing yesterday for Chicago's starter. 5 innings of work, allowing 9 base knocks and 8 earned runs as the Red Birds remain red hot. 8-2 victory over Chicago yesterday to start off this 4-game set.
Yeah, you see that final score 8-2. We also talked about it yesterday. Still those hot temperatures out there in St. Louis. It's like you just go ahead and say, I'm going to fade the pitchers in this environment because how hot it is there. And you should have done that yesterday. You would have cashed in the ticket 8.5 to 9s at the closing number, 8-2 final. But how about this, though? The St. Louis Cardinals, if we would have told you before the game, hey, you know what? 1 for 3 with runners in scoring position. Yeah, they got beat 8-2. Well, they won 8-2. Why? Because they smashed 4 home runs yesterday in that heat and humidity. An easy victory for them yesterday, slowing down the Cubs, who dropped now to 46-32. And how about this? The St. Louis Cardinals, 43-36. One of those teams that we think is going to be that good a team this year, and actually picked by most outlets that have finished last possibly in the Central, hanging around 25-15 at home, and did the work yesterday in the heat and humidity.
DRS, I bet the under of the Cards win total at 75.5 with the guidance of the MLB insider here on the SportsGrid Network. No shade at Craig Mish, but he is really good at finding those unders of win totals in the mid-70s. The Cardinals are going to fly through that number already with 43 wins here before the end of the month of June. And you are correct. All 8 runs scored yesterday by St. Louis, all 8 coming against Ben Brown. All of those a result of 4 2-run home runs. Lars Nootbaar, Alec Burleson, Brendan Donovan, and Nolan Gorman all going yabo yesterday for St. Louis. The Cubbies entered yesterday winning 5 of their last 10, which also means they lost 5 of their last 10. Now make it 6 of their last 11. Chicago's still a lead atop the National League Central, but that margin that was pretty severe to start off this year is starting to tighten up. The Cardinals playing great baseball, over exceeding expectations. Same with the Milwaukee Brewers, who had a day off on Monday, but currently the hottest team in MLB, riding a 4-game win streak. So you see these standings there in the National League Central, 46-32 for Chicago, 43-36 for Milwaukee and St. Louis combined. A 3.5-game lead for the Cubbies atop this division, DRS. Still a minus 290 favorite to win the National League Central, and I think that is fair expectation. But don't count out the Brewers or the Cardinals maybe making a push not only to challenge the Cubs in the division, but maybe a playoff run as a wild card team in the NL.
Yeah, the ebbs and flows of a Major League Baseball season. The Cubs are the most talented team here in the Central. We'll see how it plays out over these dog days of summer, which are coming up here. But how do you, sort of cut into those leads? Well, the Chicago Cubs in their last 10 games, 5-5. The 2 teams chasing them, the Brewers and the Cardinals, both 7-3 in their last 10 games here, making those rounds. And don't forget about the Cincinnati Reds, a fun team here, getting a really good start tonight, hopefully from their young pitcher coming up from AAA to see if that can sort of catapult them. Usually one of those more boring divisions that we watch. Seems like a fun division here with 4 legitimate contenders that could possibly win the Central right now.
The Reds, my Cincinnati Reds, I need them to go over 79.5. They picked up win number 41 yesterday against the New York Yankees. Ellie De La Cruz missed the cycle by just a double. They beat the Pinstripes 6-1 at home in the Great American Ballpark. And DRS, when you look at the National League Central records and odds, it is interesting, right? Because we kind of discount both of the Central divisions in terms of overall outlook, being true pennant contenders, of World Series contenders, often year in, year out. I think since the Cubs won in 2016, that was the last time a team from the Central has won a World Series, if I am not mistaken. Oh, I am correct. Thank you, producer extraordinaire Joe Frizo. But the Brewers playing a lot better again. 4 straight wins, hottest team in MLB, the only team to pull off a sweep over the weekend. Milwaukee was 25-28 on May 24th. They are 18-7 in their last 25 games. They're 7 games above 500. Same with St. Louis, defying the offseason expectations. Pirates a different story, but the Reds even 3 games above 500 now, playing much better here in the middle part of this month of June. Donnie, we really kind of thought entering this season, all right, the NL Central will get their divisional champion, of course, into the National League postseason. But the wild card teams are going to come from the NL East. The trio of the Mets, Phillies, Braves, whoever didn't win the division, probably in pole position. How about the trio in the National League West? Dodgers, Giants, Padres. D-backs even. Those are your teams contending for wild card spots. Those in the National League Central right now have a great chance.
You know, also this makes it a lot tougher at the trade deadline for those teams that usually just pick apart some of the bad teams that drop out. Now more teams are going to be involved, figuring this might be their chance to actually get a wild card and make it into the postseason. Take a look at the Brewers. I don't love the lineup 1 through 9, but sometimes you just need a hot bat that can carry you through. Even though they did lose yesterday to the Pittsburgh Pirates, Yelich again, 2 more base knocks, another home run. His average is up to 263. Absolutely scorching hot over the past 3 weeks. Sometimes you just need one of those players to carry you through there. The Brewers, again, boring team like they are typically every year, but always find themselves usually in the race late in the summer, and they're in that race right now.
There is no doubt about it. How about some of those other teams around the National League? DRS, it has been a struggle for the New York Mets here in the last 2 weeks or so in the month of June. Last week in Atlanta, in a 3-game midweek set, the Braves swept the Mets. The Mets then lost the weekend against another divisional foe in the Philadelphia Phillies. Atlanta lost the weekend, stifling some of their momentum against the Miami Marlins. So how would this midweek set on a Monday start out at Citi Field for the Braves? Pretty solid. 3-2 the victory behind a solid outing out of Spencer Schwellenbach, who only allowed 2 earned runs, both coming to Juan Soto, a 2-run shot in the 6th. And Atlanta holds on at the end to win their 4th consecutive game against the Mets.
Yeah, they own them right now, and it's really just getting better pitching than they have. You take a look at Schwellenbach, who I told you yesterday was the best pitcher overall on the card going up against Blackburn. That was a major mismatch. Now, it was 3-2 after 6. Credit the Atlanta bullpen for holding on at a lower-scoring game in that heat and humidity up at Citi Field. But the Braves are the better team. Thought it was a steal yesterday. They get the job done 3-2. And again, as I told you, we'll preview tonight's game. Braves going to win again tonight.
Start of a 4-game set this week up in Queens. We'll continue the conversation next.
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis, because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
Oklahoma City now becomes one of 4 NBA teams ever, one of 3 NBA champs ever, to win at least 84 total regular season and postseason games.
It's just the beginning, Brandon. You just look at a team with, these guys at such a young age, and, Chet's got a team option. Dieng has a team option. Jalen Williams team option. Keyshawn Wallace team option. Hey, man, they're all coming back.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
We are seeing unbelievable temperature surges over the past couple days. So I wanted to ask you this question to let the people know, how do we account for that in our handicapping? 2 good pitchers on the mound, but you look at a place like Wrigley Field, let's just say, 20-mile-an-hour winds blowing out, 90-plus degree temperatures. Is it almost like you say to yourself, you just have to fade the environment and not worry about the pitchers, because if we're hitting fly balls, they're going yard?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
As we know, it's just we enter every year, and it's, is this the Ravens' time? Is this Lamar Jackson's turn? Can they get past the Chiefs and all of these other, stalwarts of the AFC? But it's always really about Kansas City when we're talking Baltimore.
This potentially, Adam, as I send it back to you, potentially is a game changer in that you get a very talented quarter at a discount price.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on this Tuesday morning on the early line on SportsGrid. We continue recapping a 9-game slate on a Monday around Major League Baseball. Another midweek series starting between divisional foes this week from the NL East after a 3-game sweep by the Braves at home in Atlanta over the New York Mets. Last week, the Braves were favored in game number 1 of a 4-game set up in Flushing inside Citi Field this week, and they made good on that number. Great outing out of Spencer Schwellenbach. Home run from Ronald Acuna Jr. early in the second. The Braves scored all 3 of their runs in the opening 3 frames. And despite a 2-run shot from Juan Soto, who was playing much better and hitting much better at the dish, his club struggling. 9th loss now for the Amazons DRS in their last 10 games, 4 of them consecutively against this Atlanta side. The Braves take the opener of this 4-game set up in Queens this week, 3-2.
Yeah, what was the worry about the New York Mets? The lineup is fine. Lindor, Nimmo, Soto, Alonso, McNeil. You got a lot of bats that can provide the runs here, but what was always puzzling to me was, boy, you got a lot of non-household pitchers really pitching like household names right now. When is that going to stop? Well, you're seeing that stop right now. And also, if you want to be a first-place team, right, and sometimes you equate it to other teams in the division. Now, Chris Sale goes down, where you said, okay, well, is Chris Sale household name? Spencer Schwellenbach started to be a household name, and Spencer Strider household name. It's like, yeah, you can rely on those guys 1, 2, 3 every single day on the mound. Same thing with the Philadelphia Phillies. Even with Aaron Nola out of the lineup every 5th day, the Phillies go like, yeah, that guy's a good starter right now. We can see what can happen. The Petersons of the world, the Holmes of the world. You take a look at now and you're saying, all right, well, let's rely to stop guys with Paul Blackburn. Paul Blackburn's not a Major League Baseball pitcher. He's just filling in. But at a time when the worst way, you need a stopper on the mound, it's like, okay, we haven't beat the Braves. We're at home. Let's see if we can turn it around. Schwellenbach versus Blackburn. Get out of here. You're not supposed to win those games. Like, it'd be lucky for you to win those games. Now, today, you do have a pitcher coming back, is a name of pedigree going against Strider. And again, we'll talk about that later in the show, but it's not a surprise to me. Every single day when you line up, you want to have the better pitcher on the mound. The Mets haven't been having that, and they've actually been facing quality opponents, if you want to call the Braves a quality opponent, because what we based on, the past 5 to 10 years of what they can do. But you take a look at where that series started with the Tampa Bay Rays, really good team. The Philadelphia Phillies, really good team. You're not going to walk over those teams if you have average pitching, and that's what's happening.
In DRS, in fairness to Paul Blackburn, he wasn't mashed around yesterday. Did allow 3 earned in the opening 3 frames, 2 of them off a sac fly. Listen, a run is a run, an RBI is an RBI. No pictures on the scorecard, and a solo shot from Ronald Acuna Jr. But you needed a little bit more out of the offense, and you didn't really get that out of the New York Mets. Total last night was 8.5 on a very warm night in New York City, and that will continue on this Tuesday as well. Juan Soto hit the 2-run shot in the 6th. Runners on the corners, 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th, and Soto at the dish, unable to come through with the Mets trailing by a run. We'll talk about the Braves in just a moment. The victory last night, they've won 4 straight against the Amazons in the last 8 days, in the last week or so, and now Atlanta has won 9 of its last 13. But the story here, DRS, is the New York Mets, a once very proud organization in the month of June, as we saw a year ago. The proud Mets, the grimace Mets, when they kind of sparked their season with a June turnaround, kind of going the opposite way this time around here in 2025. Last 10 games for New York, 1-9, just 30 runs scored and 65 allowed, highlighting Donnie's point. The pitching regression that we thought could happen is really starting to pile up. And all of this, Donnie, following June 12th, a date the New York Mets were 45-25. That was the best record in all of Major League Baseball. A half-game advantage for the best mark in the bigs over the Detroit Tigers. Now, they've lost 9 of 10. They're trailing the Phillies in their own division, and they are stumbling here in the later portion of June.
Yeah, and it's a struggle because of what you just said. It wasn't as like, hey, we're playing 500 baseball all the way through. We win some, we lose some. You were the best team in the division with the best record in Major League Baseball, which means just play average baseball to the All-Star break. You're probably going to be in first place. Take that deep breath, maybe make some positional changes here, maybe add another starting pitcher, and away you go down the back stretch here as a team that legitimately could win the NL East. Now everything's up in the air. It's almost like, okay, well, the Phillies were 3.5, 4 games behind, and by the time the Mets get out of this swoon, the Phillies could be 4.5 games up, which is a crazy swing this early in the year, and certainly in just a few weeks strategy here. Because look, 1-9, you're not supposed to be like, hey, we're going to win 9, we'll go 9-1, then 1-9. It doesn't make sense. But it sort of seems like things are leveling off for the Mets here. Again, just getting back to the starting pitching. And you can get out of that quickly. Hey, you know what? Who cares about our starting pitching? Plate 9 runs against Strider tonight, which again, I don't think is going to happen. But sometimes you don't have to worry about the pitching. Just get out of your hitting funk. You saw it in Philadelphia for one game where, man, they were hitting missiles left and right at Simpsons Bank. Okay, everything is fine. And then the very next day they get blasted again, then lose to the Atlanta Braves the night after that. It's just a tough go-around right now for the Mets.
The Braves were a minus 146 favorite yesterday. Same story for this Tuesday as well. Elsewhere around the bigs, next.
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Dialing it back to his old days with St. Louis and Arizona. Buy or sell, Goldie will finish top 7 in fantasy first baseman.
No, I'm going to say no. I think he'll fall off. Older player here, he'll be top 10, but not top 7 here. Top 10, I would say, yeah, I'd buy it. Top 7, I'm going to say no here. I think he'll put up decent numbers here. Not as good as he was. I don't think he's going to bat 340, 350 all year long.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on
Every 5 days, it's really exciting when Skeens pitches, and it's terrible watching him pitch because every time he pitches, they don't score.
Having him hit the lineup probably would actually help when he pitches. There's no way to do it because you can't, but yeah, it's beyond frustrating. And the numbers will tell you, the books have adjusted.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
More headlines from a Monday 9-game slate around Major League Baseball, and it starts with a man known as Big Dumper. You can call him Big Dumper. You can call him Cal Raleigh. You can call him MLB's leader in home runs this year as he continues to be scorching hot at the dish. 4 consecutive games for Big Dumper with a home run. It was in his final at bat last night in a blowout of the Minnesota Twins in the Twin Cities. The 10th and 11th runs Seattle scored in a huge victory over the Twins. An MLB best 32nd homer for Cal Raleigh yesterday as well. 4 straight games, DRS, for Raleigh going yard. And the price, not plus 370, plus 172 for Big Dumper to hit one over the wall. He did that once again yesterday.
Yeah, Bailey Ober's a bad pitcher, and it's one of those games which sort of makes me chuckle a little bit. Like 7 innings pitched, 7 earned runs. Like, what'd they do? Touch him up for 7 in the 7th inning? Like, no, they got him for 6 runs in the 3rd. The game was over. Like, look, we're not going to blow our bullpen up. Just see what you can do out there. And actually was decent the rest of the way, only giving up that 6th inning there with that 1 run to make it 7-0. And then the 4 runs late, which obviously padding the stats there for Cal Raleigh. We told you yesterday, nice environment in Minnesota with wind blowing out to left field yesterday. So you said yourself, or excuse me, right field. All right, Cal Raleigh's going to be up there. See what he can do against a right-handed pitcher. Bang, home run yesterday. 11 runs by the Mariners.
Yeah.
And that's to feel good because when we always look at the Mariners, it's not about the starting pitching typically for them. It's always about the hitting. And outside of T-Mobile the past couple of days, they've been mashing the baseball. Heat, humidity, and the wind blowing out must be fun when the Mariners go, man, let's never go home to a ballpark that seems like it's always 65 degrees, cloud cover and drizzling.
Yeah, and right now, DRS, they're taking advantages of the hot temperatures everywhere else. Cal Raleigh, who hit a home run in every single game against Chicago this weekend, continues his Midwest tour with another home run yesterday in Minneapolis. So he has 32 this year. That leads all of Major League Baseball. The Yankees got beat yesterday by the Reds in Cincinnati, but Aaron Judge did hit a home run to lead off the first inning for the Yanks, and then the Reds scored 6 unanswered runs to take the opener of that set at the Great American Ballpark. So 32 for Cal Raleigh, affectionately known, of course, as Big Dumper. 28 for 99 in pinstripes. That is Aaron Judge. Yesterday, despite, again, that 4-homer gap, Aaron Judge was still favored to have the most home runs this year in Major League Baseball in front of Cal Raleigh. Plus 100, plus 110, the price on Judge, plus 125 for Cal Raleigh. That is now flipped, not entirely, but both guys, DRS, plus 110 to be the MLB leader in homers this year. You got a good lead with Cal Raleigh. I guess playing in the Northwest could literally rain on his parade, but I still kind of like the odds on Big Dumper, who is on pace now for 67 home runs in 2025.
Yeah, it's a shame that he's not going to get the rounds that Aaron Judge would have because, again, your home games are played in T-Mobile up there in the Pacific Northwest, one of the toughest ballparks here to hit home runs in. And they take a look at Aaron Judge. Well, what does he have the rest of the summer? Well, a lot of games at home in Yankee Stadium, fantastic. A lot of games probably in Toronto in his own division, fantastic. A lot of games there being in Boston, fantastic. And used to be like, oh, well, Donnie, he gets penalized because he has to go to the Trop a lot there. No, he doesn't. He goes to George Steinbrenner Field, which is outdoors now in the heat and humidity. So if I'm looking at it from an optimistic standpoint, yeah, Cal Raleigh could bang away and get 55, 60 home runs this year, which would be incredible if he did that. But my money is still on Aaron Judge because if you have an easier ballpark to hit on typically on a night-to-night basis, you got to go that way. Power hitters, an extra 15 feet short in the outfield of a fence, yeah, I'm going that way.
And it's incredible, DRS. This is a catcher doing this. And Cal Raleigh playing behind the dish, basically day in, day out, is also really good defensively in that spot. You are not supposed to see catchers with this much offensive skill and power, and yet Big Dumper has continued to provide that. We have talked often about the MVP price on Aaron Judge, kind of already how outlandish it is for Aaron Judge to win his 3rd AL MVP award in the last 4 years. But a couple of weeks ago, it was minus 20,000. A week ago, it was minus 20,000. It's now just minus 1,600, and Raleigh at plus 550, that's second best number. Something to pay attention to the remainder of this summer. The Arizona Diamondbacks scored 10 runs yesterday on the south side of Chicago against the White Sox, but with some good, a 10-0 victory, some bad as well. Their young superstar Corbin Carroll placed on the IL, 20 homers, 44 RBIs already this season on the injured list with a wrist fracture, and a couple of guys plunked yesterday. Eugenio Suarez and Josh Naylor also a little bit banged up leaving that game against the Sox.
Yeah, not great. It's a really talented lineup, and now you're starting to see some inefficiencies there because of injury, because Corbin Carroll at the top of your lineup was an absolute hammer this year, and now you say he's got a chip bone fracture, I believe, in his wrist. Who knows how many weeks that's actually going to be knocking him out, which is a shame because the Diamondbacks rounding into form there, particularly on offense, 40 and 38 on the season. Their calling card is their offense, and now a couple guys injured, and maybe not just Carroll, as you said at this point. Maybe we're expecting some other bad news coming down the line. Hopefully not, but one of the more fun teams to bet here with the ability to have a lot of switch hitters in the lineup, which includes Corbin Carroll, the lefty at the top of that lineup. If he's down for any long periods of time, Ketel Marte's really got to pick it up, and he's already hitting 316. Once he got to hit 400 to make up for Corbin Carroll, hopefully he's back sooner than later.
Yeah, hopefully so, DRS. That is the case. Again, the Reds, the win yesterday in Cincinnati, 6-1. And Heimer Candelario, who was signed pre-2024, that was last year, to a 3-year, $45 million deal by the Reds, batting just 113 in 22 games this season, DRS, DFA'd by the Reds. They basically said, he's a negative asset in our clubhouse right now. See ya.
Yeah, you know what's funny about that, too? Because I really liked him. And this was one of those guys that used to be back with the Detroit Tigers before they started getting all those, like, hey, the Riley Greens of the world, the Torkelsons really stepping up. It's like, this guy's a quality Major League Baseball player. Certainly not quality once he got that big contract. But the best thing about it, this ain't the NFL. You're halfway through that contract. You know what the best part about it is, Ben? You get all of that contract, regardless of where you wind up on your couch or single-A baseball.
DRS, I have been mistaken in starting off this show. I've been saying the Brewers had the day off yesterday. They had their 4-game win streak snapped elsewhere in that division. Thank you for smiling all throughout that. The Pittsburgh Pirates got the win. Yeah, big baseball guy. Listen, we're making our changes, right, from the NBA Finals, Stanley Cup, now fully into baseball. I've had to get used to it. So the Brew Crew having that longest win streak in MLB snapped on a Monday. Did you see the roster moves for the Mets as they're trying to bolster up things outside of what they have done so far? The New York Mets called up reliever Richard Lovelady, but he has formally requested to go by his nickname for Richard, Dickie. So that means now in the Mets bullpen, Dickie Lovelady could be out there for the Amazons very, very soon.
Mets love that name, Dickie, huh? R.A. Dickie, now Dickie Lovelady here. Just runs with the Mets right now, just flows right off your tongue. I like this, though. Like, it's a much better name. Use that nickname here, and maybe could it be the catalyst where it's like, okay, this guy changed his name, and now the Mets go on a winning streak? Like, yeah, like the grimmest Mets last year. You need something to hold on to. Maybe it's Dickie time for the Mets now, huh?
Dickie Lovelady, man. Dickie Lovelady jerseys about to go absolutely platinum this year at fall tailgates around colleges in the Northeast. Dickie Lovelady trying to help the Mets, who have lost 9 of their last 10. Some other scores yesterday. DRS, the thing that has plagued the Rangers all year long. Same story yesterday. A hot night inside Camden Yards. The O's win 6-0 over Texas, but the Rangers shut out once again. They just can't score. They've allowed the fewest runs in MLB, but they can't score. The Rangers getting blanked yesterday in Baltimore.
Yeah, it was 95 degrees at first pitch yesterday.
Crazy.
They didn't score a run, had 3 hits. Like, if there's one night, it's like, you know what? Regardless of the pitchers that we're going to face, and by the way, it wasn't great. I mean, Rogers was on the mound. He goes 8 innings pitched, 0 earned runs. Come on now. You got to do something. And the first guy I look at in that lineup is like, oh, where was Sweet Seager? He wasn't even in the lineup. And by the way, if he wasn't, he wouldn't have made a difference anyway. He's been brutal as of late. Just a lineup that should be so talented entering into the season. We say, hey, who can win that AL pennant outside of the Yankees? Donnie was like, yeah, it's the Rangers. They're 38-41. They can recover, but man, it doesn't look good right now, specifically at the plate.
No, it certainly does not. The Sox have now lost 3 straight in the state of California. The Angels beat them last night in Anaheim 9-5. Plenty more baseball later, but a big trade last night in the NBA. Next.
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
Was the first time, I think, in Dodgers history that the ballpark was full in the first inning. Everybody was there to see Shohei Ohtani throw his first pitch as a Dodger, and I had mixed emotions about this for a few reasons. Number one, it was a reminder of, wow, this is so crazy, right? You're watching him hit 98, 99, even 100 on the radar gun going, this guy's not human. Nobody should be able to be this good of a hitter and this good of a pitcher.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
As we know, it's just we enter every year and it's, is this the Ravens' time? Is this Lamar Jackson's turn? Can they get past the Chiefs and all of these other, stalwarts of the AFC? But it's always really about Kansas City when we're talking Baltimore.
This potentially, Adam, as I send it back to you, potentially is a game changer in that you get a very talented quarter at a discount price.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Oklahoma City now becomes one of 4 NBA teams ever, one of 3 NBA champs ever, to win at least 84 total regular season and postseason games.
It's just the beginning, Brandon. You just look at a team with, these guys at such a young age, and, Chet's got a team option, Ismail Dieng has a team option, Jalen Williams team option, Keyshawn Wallace team option. Hey, man, They're all coming back.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Even after the NBA Finals in game number 7 and the close of the 2024-25 NBA campaign, we have seen a lot. Heck, on the afternoon of game 7, Kevin Durant was dealt to the Houston Rockets in a blockbuster deal. We've got the NBA draft in round number 1 tomorrow night in Brooklyn. A lot of activity early here in the full offseason and the dramatic summer months around the association. That includes last night, DRS, a late night trade between the Boston Celtics and the Portland Trail Blazers. Drew Holiday, an integral piece of that Celtics team that won an NBA championship, banner number 18 inside TD Garden just a year ago, now on his way to Portland. In return, the Trail Blazers send Anthony Simons in 2 second-round selections back to Boston. Again, we had kind of talked about this as we were waiting for NBA Finals games to play out. In the Eastern Conference Finals between not the Celtics, but the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers, following that devastating injury to Jason Tatum, the ruptured Achilles, and the Celtics' disappointing end of the year in the postseason that can only be considered a disappointment. We understood Boston was going to make some changes this offseason. It's the first domino to fall. Drew Holiday now traded to Portland.
Yeah, and you might say to yourself, like, hey, man, that's a really good return back for Drew Holiday. And technically it is, because you need some scoring, but also understand this. They're scoring with a team that's not very good, and then they're scoring with a team that you hope is going to make a deep playoff run in the Celtics, even without Jason Tatum next year. But understand this, too. Like, do you remember when, Marcus Smart left Boston? Oh, the heart and soul. Well, they sort of replaced it with Drew Holiday, one of those great teammates here. And by the way, just looking at his bio here, 3-time NBA Teammate of the Year, which he won in 2020, 2022, and 2023. And also 3-time All-Defensive Team first team, 3-time All-Defensive second team in the NBA. So you're losing one of those guys that goes, hey, I'm okay without the spotlight here. I'll get mine when I get mine. I'll play great defense and be an absolutely superstar teammate here. And you got to love that if you're Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. It's like, look, we're going to fight for the basketball anyway. We don't need another guy in here that thinks he can score 20 points. He's the perfect teammate. So maybe he goes back to Portland and sort of resets the process there, because he was supposed to be in Portland, and that 3-way deal, 4-way deal, whatever went down, doesn't wind up in Portland.
Yeah.
And obviously ended up there with the Boston Celtics, which was a great move for the Celtics. I actually like this deal for both franchises, but I do think you got some pretty good value moving forward with some extra scoring for the Boston Celtics. I do.
I'm not entirely sure why the Trailblazers did this. I was talking with our producer extraordinaire, Joe Frizo, downstairs, who is much more an NBA guy than myself. And it's just basically the idea that Portland needs to start actually winning, getting back to the playoffs in the Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum times. They were a playoff team around the Western Conference, never really elevated beyond that, but it's time to start winning. Anthony Simons, known as an offensive bucket getter, but kind of a liability on the other side of the floor, can provide, as DRS mentioned, probably some bench scoring for Boston moving forward into 2025-26. Simons last year averaging about 19 points per game. He is only 26 years old. He's got one more year remaining on his deal. Drew Holiday, the numbers aren't outlandish, but as Donnie alluded to, he means a lot to this Boston side. He is 35 years old. He is certainly a veteran. He's got 3 years left on a rather rich contract, DRS, and that's part of why Boston, I think, traded him out to the Blazers, unloading some of that money as they reshaped the roster this offseason with a precarious 2025-26 ahead. It was always going to be an interesting offseason, even if Jason Tatum was fully healthy. If you got ousted in the second round by your rivals in the New York Knicks, but you have playoff disappointment as the odds-on favorite to win the East basically since January, and you wanted to get back to that championship caliber you had returned to the year prior, and now with Jason Tatum and his status for the entirety of next year very much in question, DRS, even leads to more changes happening. As I shared earlier in the show, Shams Charania, who broke the news of this trade last night of Drew Holiday, Anthony Simons, and others between the Blazers and Celtics, followed up on his own reporting saying, this is probably the first of some key names and figures in this Boston team that could be on the move this summer.
Yeah, it's amazing, too, because these questions will probably pop up in a few years here for OKC. And OKC is a small market. Boston is not a small market here and shouldn't be operating as a small market team. But there is that opportunity to be a big market team and just don't be completely physically unresponsible, which means that you're saying, you know what? We're going to pay these guys because that window was there. And let's just say Tatum does not get injured, Ben, right? They win an NBA championship this year. I don't know if they're making any moves because they're saying the payoff there is going to be just greater. We'll just keep winning it. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Let's run a couple championships off. But now the Celtics are going, okay, our payroll is going to be so high next year. Let's be frank about things. We're probably not going to win it without Jason Tatum. So let's start to make these moves for when Tatum does come back. We have a reshaped, younger roster that we can afford. And if Tatum can get back to sort of an MVP form, then we'll continue that charge. But it almost feels to me like we're setting up, Ben, a throwaway year next year for the Boston Celtics in a reshaping of that organization. Not because they wanted to, but they just can't afford this team moving down the line. But they saw this coming from a mile away. You were just hoping you could steal 2 or 3 championships while you're paying that big money. You got 1, which you're lucky to get. Now we don't even know if they're going to get 2, and they're already making moves to reshape that.
Again, we're going to talk a deep dive of conference odds starting off in hour number 2. We looked at the early championship odds to win a Larry O'Brien trophy at the end of one season yesterday. We're going to dive even deeper into the conference odds. And of course, DRS, the story is the Eastern Conference by far. It is so up in the air with basically every team that has a 20-1 price or shorter having monumental questions. The New York Knicks don't have a coach. The Celtics don't have their best player. Neither do the Indiana Pacers, despite reaching the Eastern Conference Finals each of the past 2 years and getting to a Game 7 this season. The New York Knicks, as they have tried to interview people, there was another update to their coaching search. We'll break down for you in just a moment. Even the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are booked as the favorites. Yeah, Donovan Mitchell is back, but Darius Garland's going to be out for 4 to 5 months with that big toe injury that he suffered. There is so much to get to in the Eastern Conference, but if it's up in the air and it is uncertain, might there be some prices worthy of diving into right now? Just to share that update from Shams Charania, the New York Knicks are interviewing T-Wolves assistant Micah Norrie for the team's head coaching job. So now Norrie, Mike Brown, and Taylor Jenkins. Mike Brown, former head coach of the Kings. Taylor Jenkins, former head coach of the Grizzlies. Those are the 3 candidates who have done a formal interview for the Knicks head coaching vacancy as of this moment. Where's Johnny Bryant? What's
Norrie
taking the Knicks so long?
Yeah, which Norrie are we talking
about?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Dialing it back to his old days with St. Louis and Arizona. Buy or sell, Goldie will finish top 7 in fantasy first baseman.
No, I'm going to say no. I think he'll fall off. Older player here, he'll be top 10, but not top 7 here. Top 10, I would say I buy it. Top 7, I'm going to say no here. I think he'll put up decent numbers here. Not as good as he was. I don't think he's going to bat 340, 350 all year long.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on
Every 5 days, it's really exciting when Skeens pitches, and it's terrible watching him pitch because every time he pitches, they don't score.
Having him hit the lineup probably would actually help when he pitches. There's no way to do it because you can't, but yeah, it's beyond frustrating. And The numbers will tell you, the books have adjusted.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Ending out this opening hour live right here on a Tuesday morning on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie. I am Ben. Confirming what we all knew, DRS, based on the injury, the reaction, and of course the numerous replays the ESPN crews shared on Sunday night in Game 7 of the 2025 NBA Finals. Pacers star Tyrese Halliburton did sustain a torn right Achilles tendon. Of course, this occurring in the same leg. He had suffered a calf strain during the NBA Finals and continued to play through. Tyrese Halliburton already undergoing surgery, releasing his own social media post yesterday about the inspiration that he will take in his recovery and just frankly how devastating the injury was. You really do feel for Halliburton, for the Pacers on this biggest moment, defying the expectations as the underdog to even get to that stage and have it taken from them that quickly is truly a difficult thing to overcome. But now we wish the best to Tyrese Halliburton in his recovery from the ruptured right Achilles.
And like the devastation of that as we talk about too, because the injury comes up and it's going to wipe out your next year. It's not a twisted ankle. It's not I got to get shoulder surgery. I'll see you back in November. This basically tells you, hey, if you tear your Achilles like early October, it's like, hey, you know what? I might be able to be back for the playoff run, Christmas time, New Year's, around that time, February, see where we're at this point. This wipes out his entire season. And it's always interesting to see like where the odds markets do change, because we're going to get to it where you see Oklahoma City as an unbelievable favorite and you go, man, the Pacers went all the way through that season, 50 wins, had a great playoff run. They'll be right back in it next year. And the odds makers, Ben, are telling you, oh, no, they won't be in it next year, the way they're pricing them here. So that Halliburton injury, heart and soul of the team, devastating loss in game number 7, where you can't even say, like, okay, we'll be back next year. And the odds makers are telling you, no, you won't. And Halliburton certainly won't be back next year. And that's a tough pill to swallow after losing a game number 7.
And that's the tough thing, DRS, right? Because it's not just, oh, man, we lost our best player for our final game, but now it's the offseason. Take a month, 2 months to recover. We'll see you out there in October, bright and early, as a team that has reached the Eastern Conference Finals. Unexpectedly so. Each of the previous 2 NBA seasons would be expected to get back there now and have that expectation, but because of what they have proven on the hardwood, when you have this significant of an injury to Tyrese Halliburton, of course, he is more than likely to miss all of 2025-26. I think it's even more of a bummer, DRS, because he did play in game number 6, although for a while we were not sure that was going to be the case. And he balled out. He had 14 points and, of course, was a critical leader for Indiana on the floor to extend this series to a 7th and final game. And how did he start game number 7? 3 made triples, in the opening 5 minutes of the game. It seemed as though a guy that had willed his team to this moment, with clutch moment after clutch moment in each and every round, including in game number 1 of the NBA Finals, was about to, in the clutchest of all stages, a 7th game out of NBA Finals, pull off a similar feat. To have it all crash down immediately is really something to feel devastating about. And again, we are going to break down the conference odds in just a matter of moments. But the fact that Indiana is 15-1, tied for the 6th best price around the Eastern Conference with the Detroit Pistons, tells you everything that you need to know. What would that price be, DRS? They just come up short in Game 7 on Sunday against Oklahoma City. What would that price be in an Eastern Conference that, as you look at every team, and we'll break down in just a minute or so as we start off hour number 1, every team has some sort of large flaw or big issue. What would that price be on the Pacers if Halliburton was going to be healthy next year?
Yeah, we'd think like $4 or $5 at least cheaper, but understand this too. Like when Tyrese Halliburton's going to play or not play in like a game, it's like, okay, the line goes from 5 to 6.5. It's amazing how much the absolute, differences on the season in totality, saying, well, you can't recover for an 82 game schedule and the playoffs. Maybe for one game, somebody can rise to the occasion, because the NBA championship odds, which were yesterday, which were astronomical at 45-1 for the Pacers, that's now 47-1. Like you have one team that's a plus 220 that just got done winning the finals. And you said, wait a second, the team that took them to game number 7 is basically 50-1 to win it next year. That tells you the devastating impact that's going to happen now with Halliburton out for the entirety of the season and the playoffs next year. And the part of it is you're not going to get an asterisk like in game number 7. But if you're a Pacers fan, you're always going to remember this 30 years down the line. If there's no more champions, you're like, man, what would have happened in that one game where Halliburton was red hot to start if he just played the entire way? Was it 26, 13, and 12 and we win the championship? And oh my goodness, what a season. You'll never know at that point. You just won't.
No, you really will not, DRS. And that is the difficult part for the Pacers, for their organization, for the fan base in Indiana. The what-if game is a dangerous one. Hour number 2 up next.